Good afternoon. Michael Ward with Tracy Longo, Guitar Tech Extraordinaire. Now, Tracy has been around for a long time. He's got a website called guitartechcorner.com. It's got many different things on it. Testimonials, examples, some of the miracles you've created or repaired. Tracy, how'd you get started in this?
I got started because I bought a really cheap Les Paul copy in 1977 with my money when I worked at Golf and Stuff. So that's kind of dating my age right now. And I bought this guitar. It was like $199, and I wanted to put new pickups in it. And DiMarzio just came out with their first replacement pickups, the Super Distortion. So I thought, well, I'll pop these in here. How hard can that be? It was pretty hard. And then I said, okay, well, I'll do a fret level and dress, and I'll start getting in. And at that time, there wasn't books. We had no internet. We had CB radios, but there was nobody on the CB radio to help me. So that was our first internet. So it was trial and error. Finally, there was this wonderful gentleman that worked over at a music store that's no longer here, Heck Music, and his name was Cyrus. And I went in there with a Les Paul that I got for graduation in 1980, and I asked him if he could shave the neck and make it thinner. And he scratched his head. He looked at me and goes, "Why would you want me to do that?" And I said, "Oh, my hands are small. I just wanted to play good." He goes, "I've never done one before." He goes, "But let's do it." So he took me in the back of the shop to show me all his tools. And I got the fever right then and there, 1980. So that's when, after he gave that back to me, he did an impeccable job. And I tried to replicate it on another Les Paul copy that I had. And I did a horrible job. And I said, you know what? I need to really start honing my skills. And so I did. It was about 6-7 hours a day. I would just sit there and I'd work on yard sale specials and stuff like that. So that was 79, 80.
Wow, that's incredible.
But I didn't hang a shingle until probably 1984 is when I started doing it professionally.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you have several certifications to repair guitars by companies that I'm sure will be familiar to just about any musician here.
Yeah, at one time, in the beginning, I wanted to set myself up as a warranty station for all the big major manufacturers. So I was with Fender, with Martin, Guild, Taylor, 16 companies. So I got set up with 16 companies. A lot of them were under the umbrella of Gibson. I was with Gibson as well, and they owned Kramer, and they owned Steinberger, and Fender owned Jackson and stuff like that, and they owned Guild at the time too. And then the last company, I kind of got away from doing warranty work, and as Guild that moved out here to Oxnard. And I hated to leave it. It was just that I had so many clients and so much repair work that was already on my plate. So I was ahead of the repair department there.
DW bought Guild? Is that
DW bought Ovation guitars when Fender sold Ovation, and Cordoba Guitars, which is out on West Star Avenue in Pacifica in Oxnard, bought Guild. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, so I got to hang out with one of my idols, Ren Ferguson. If anybody Googles his name, that's one of my gurus of all time. He ran the Bozeman, Montana Gibson acoustic division for 27 years, I believe.
Wow.
And an incredible craftsman. So for me to be able to work with him the short amount of time I did, I was just enamored.
So started in 79 just plinking around trying to fix. So, but about 41, 42 years of actual guitar tech. Hands-on repair. That's just phenomenal. I mean, that is a career. That is an absolute career. How many guitars have you worked on?
Well, it's interesting. I'm up to close to 19,000 right now, and the reason I know I'm pretty close to that is because I just had to reorder some of my repair tickets, and I order them 2,000 at a time, and and also a while back I got audited, maybe, well, not a while back, about 10 years ago. So I had to basically produce receipts for 7 years.
Wow.
And I was going through all this stuff. I go, man, I really worked on this many guitars.
That's crazy. That is I mean, 19,000. I've got 3. You've worked on all 3 of mine.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Well, and also it's incorporated like that. People will bring me their, as surfers say, their quiver. So they'll show up with one surfboard and I fix it. And next thing I know, they got 6 more hiding in the closet. The first one was just a test.
I wish I had 6 more.
Oh, you will, Michael.
No, I won't. No, I won't. So I saw Todd Ledbetter's podcast back in early May.
Yeah, super nice guy.
Which I, by the way, recommend that you listen to. He's got some incredible stories on there about the people, about his fellow musicians, fellow craftsmen, fellow band members. And I understand also you're playing again, kind of trying to get back into it where you're out enjoying yourself. You're taking your craft and out to where you're back to being a musician again.
Yeah, the curse of doing this for a living is you get to the point where you don't want to restring your own guitars. It turns into a chore. And then I get to talk to my clients that come in and they say they can't wait to get home from work to restring their guitar and plug into their amp. And I'm going, God, I don't have that enthusiasm because of the curse of what I do all day long. You know, what did they say? The cobbler's shoes are never correct.
Right, exactly.
And they never fit, and they're always falling apart. But then I started getting back into it. I had a couple people kind of coax me into, hey, let's just get together and do the old school jam. What 3-chord songs do you know? I know this one, this one, this one. Then the COVID thing broke out. But I think the blessing out of that was I got to rehearse, and I'm still rehearsing with 4. It's a 4-piece band, and we're all awake about being social distancing. We're not inviting people to the practice. It's not a party. It's basically we bring our recorders. We're doing some multi-track recording and stuff like that. They're all fantastic musicians, and I'm getting my chops back, so I'm kind of happy.
I'm very glad that you're doing that. I really am, because I'm going to give you a little bit of my personal history, because back in 2016, when I reacquired an Ovation 12-string that I had an Ovation 12-string that I had to sell due to financial difficulties, but I found a 1985 collector's edition 12-string, and I didn't know what to do with it because the battery darn thing went, and I didn't know anything about Ovations, and they had those epaulette things, and you can't, what the heck? So I called up Ventura, the Guitar Planet in Ventura, and they gave me your number. I called you, and I was amazed. The friendliness that I found from you talking to you. I mentioned a couple of artists. I mentioned an artist that is deep into my history, and that's Chris Hillman.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, we were talking about every album. We were talking about how you see him at lunch, and I'm going, what luck have I got here? So you did that for me. You took some albums and some CDs into the lunch for Chris, and you came back and you gave me my guitar, came back, and there it was with some signed Chris Hillman. Good job, Mike. Keep playing.
Yeah.
I was a happy camper. So it's incredible. I want to give you a few names that you've worked on and and I want you to tell me just a brief history of how you know and what these men mean to you. Bob Bain.
Oh, Uncle Bob. He was a guitar player on The Tonight Show for 27, 26 years. He passed away. I miss him dearly. He was the last of the Rat Pack. He played John F. Kennedy's Inauguration. Stories you get to hear from the band at that point in time. But he was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he also played on just about every major movie. He was one of the top session players that nobody really heard about because they would hire him. He was Hank Mancini's right-hand man. He would write the music out, do the arranging. So Peter Gunn and all that stuff was all arranged by Bob Bain. And I would see Bob Bain a couple times a month. We'd get together.
That's neat. That is so neat.
And I got to introduce Chris Hillman to him, and Chris got a couple lessons from Bob, which was really, really cool. And because they came from two different perspectives. And Chris came from playing live and doing albums as a band. Bob came from almost like a carpentry trade, where he would show up, he would play the song, and it would go off to the movie theaters, and then he'd go back to work at the Tonight Show. And it was more of just a job, so to speak. Phenomenal musician. He put out many, many solo albums, and he played on all kinds of Tiffany, whatever, all kinds of Dr. Zhivago, you name it, Peter Around the World in 80 Days, all the
back
just
in the 60s. Back in the 60s, those movies.
60s, 70s, all the way up to the TV series like Emergency and Doctari in the 60s. His list was absolutely huge, but he was the most humble character in the world. So I called him Uncle Bob, and he allowed me to do that. And dear friend.
I've seen several pictures. Again, on Tracy's site, you can see some of those pictures of him and Bob, and some of the testimonies people will give about Tracy. One I remember, something about the rest, but he's the best.
Oh, he said, what did he say? He said, if I remember correctly, I try not to look at my own webpage, but he goes, I've tried the rest, Tracy's the best, or something.
Yes.
Something to that.
Yes. And that just, when I saw that yesterday, because that's what I saw, I apologize for not remembering it, but, and it just like, oh my gosh, that's just, that man said that.
And coming from him, he taught me a lot about being humble. I mean, because I cherish, like, our relationship that we have here is not just me working on your guitar. There's stories and there's background, and I try to have a personal relationship with the person behind the guitar, because I learn more about their guitar playing. You know, they'll tell me their style of music, and I'll be able to set the guitar up and almost mentally get into the guitar zone of what they're playing and how they're playing that guitar. So then when they get home, because I'm a guitar player first, and I refuse to give a guitar back that's not going to be playable. It would make no sense in the world. So if I can't play it, it's not ready yet. By the time it's ready, then I give the green light and I get it back to the customer.
Next guy, Joe Bonamassa.
Oh, Joe Bonamassa. Joe Bonamassa. It took me a long time to pronounce his last name correctly. He is just another super humble guy, very super humble guy. He came out here to look at a Fiesta Red Strat that was he was thinking about buying, and we ended up hanging out, or he ended up hanging out. I was permanently here. I'm serving my life sentence here, so so he was hanging out. Him and Rick Gold. Rick is just a sweetheart of a guy. That's kind of like Joe's right-hand man, and he's a photographer, intense photographer. Like most of the books that have pictures of 50s Les Pauls and stuff like that, he's the guy that takes all those pictures for all those books.
I wasn't aware of that.
He's got footage of concerts going way back to 70s, and just pictures that he owns. Just a super nice guy. I owe him a phone call, so that reminds me I need to say hi to him and Joe again. But Joe came out here, and super humble guy. One thing that he did really nice was, my son is 27 now, and we had built a guitar together when my son was about 7 years old out of 2x4s. It was like a project, dad and son thing, little bonding thing.
Nice.
And it was sitting here, and I forgot it was sitting here, and Joe signed the back of it. So I got it actually upstairs because I didn't want to, knock it over or anything like that. And I got to get it back to my son after I quit showing it to people. But Joe's a great guy.
And a
fantastic player too.
Absolutely,
goes without saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He can really he can play it. Last one on the list here, and you know which one's going to be. Chris Hillman.
Chris, yes. Chris, how did I meet Chris? I met Chris through John Jorgensen, and John was touring. When I met John was just finishing touring with Elton John. He played with Elton for 7 years.
I'm sorry to stop. Jorgensen slipped in for Davey Johnstone. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then they ended up playing together too.
They put out an album together, Crop Circles.
Yeah, they bought the little Porta Studios that you could buy at the time, and they put out Crop Circles. I have the CD somewhere that he signed for me and all kinds of stuff. John's a sweetheart of a guy, and so I met John first, which is ironic because he lived in Nashville.
Wow.
And he had a house close to Studio City in LA, but he really wasn't an LA guy. He would spend most of the time in Nashville doing session work and traveling all the time. And then Chris called me out of the blue and left this message saying, hey, I can drop the guitar off at the music store you're mentioning, Guitar Planet. And I called him back. I said, well, what kind of guitar is it? And, you know, he doesn't have cheap guitars. I said, well, maybe I ought to look at it with you. And that was our formal introduction, and that was 25 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we're still in communicado all the time. He's a sweetheart of a guy, and he's got a book coming out. So
Good.
all the stuff you want to know about Chris Hillman is going to be released. I can't give an exact date, but it's going to be within, you know, less than a year.
I saw on where they show where the new concerts are supposed to be coming back and stuff. I saw that he was supposed to be at the Bank of America Center in Thousand Oaks. Called them up when I saw it, and they go, no, we don't have anything scheduled. And I'm going, then 2 weeks later it said all concerts canceled for 2020.
Here we go.
And then I saw a new one come up that he was going to be in March of 2021, but it's still not on ticket list. And I'm going to be looking for that.
Yeah, keep your eye out. Things are just so much in flux with this COVID thing that, I mean, because I got flooded with guitars basically because none of the musicians could play out live, and you know, you couldn't have. So that was a perfect time for them to say, hey, Tracy, you need like 5 guitars to work on? Well, maybe not 5. All right, I'll send you 6.
That's
so
great.
I think you came in here when there was quite a few guitars. I think close to 36 at one time when you came in here.
It was full.
Yeah,
was full.
I'm slowly getting there. I don't want to use the term whittling away, not with wooden guitars. Yeah, but I'm getting through, and I got a little waiting list going too, because I'm trying to be real respectful of not having, you know, too many customers, and I don't advertise. So the one thing about me is word of mouth. It's and I think that's the best advertisement.
I agree. Fast forward to this year, and we're just talking about COVID. Open mics been kind of canceled all over.
Yeah, sadly.
Unfortunately, that was where I kind of got my grasp on what I enjoyed. But I can't tell you enough how I appreciate what you've done for my guitars. The Martin that you fixed, you put an LR Baggs pickup in there and lowered my action, did the dressing on the frets. Just incredible work, My Epiphone that I brought in, I know it's going to be okay because you did it. So, I mean, it's incredible. Tracy, you're in my opinion, you are like a legend.
Well,
a legend, and one that is like, I think the word you've used several times about other people definitely applies to you, and that's humble. Humble and incredibly talented.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is hopefully we're going to end this, and then I'm going to take a little interview around the shop, and you can explain some of the things that are around there.
Let's do a little mini tour.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
sounds good.